Hey lizard people, let's talk about some of the best plants for bearded dragons. Are you looking for plants to add to your bearded dragon's cage? Do you have a question about which plants are safely added to their environment? Introducing plants into their environment can provide a tasty snack and create a fun and stimulating home for your pet. There's so many options available, and finding the best ones to put in their cage is a challenge at first, and if you're unfamiliar with plants in general. So why live plants? Why should you add these to your cage? So live plants can survive and thrive in an enclosure with their bearded dragon, and as a bonus, they improve your pet's quality of life. If you have an enclosure with plants, climbing branches, and furniture and other items, your dragon will have a more interesting and complex environment to enjoy. These items will give your animal a more stimulating home to explore each day, in addition to your animal uh, enjoying a complex environment. They can munch on the live plants if they are hungry. Bearded dragons are omnivores, meaning they will eat insects and plants. Be prepared for your dragon to eat some plants or their leaves faster than the plant can tolerate. With some plants like herbs, you will have to replace them regularly as they are no match for your hungry bearded dragon. And this is just a common problem you'll run into with having live plants, but it's really the only drawback if you consider that a drawback. As on the plus side, your bearded dragon can constantly munch on and get nutrition from the plants, depending on what you're putting in there. So that can be a bonus, but on the downside, it's a more of a ongoing type of maintenance that you'll have to deal with. So that's kind of you'll have to weigh the pros and cons for yourself to see if this is the or a route that you want to take. Overall, adding live plants will increase the amount of work you have to do in the environment. So you have to be willing to give the extra time and energy before you buy a bunch of live plants. There are a variety of plants available which won't harm your pet, and the plants on our list are all going to be safe for your dragon. So let's talk about installing these plants. Once you pick which ones you want to add to your environment, you might be wondering how you put them in the enclosure. There are two different routes to take when it comes to installing these plants. Either you can plant them directly into the tank, usually in the substrate, or you can plant them in pots, which are removable from the tank. Personally, I'm more of a pot person. I would, I enjoyed the convenience of being able to put them in, remove them, or change them as needed. So let's talk about putting them directly in the tank. This approach, while is aesthetically pleasing, is challenging. Maintenance is a little more difficult, and you must find a substrate safe for your animal and that will provide for your plants. If you're willing to put in the time and go through some trial and error, there is a reward here. It's very eye catching. It's more of an aesthetically pleasing thing, but the overall maintenance is much higher. There are other options when it comes to installing plants directly in the enclosure. Some plants can adhere to the surfaces within the tank, and you'll be able to add these to the background or on rocks or even the ceiling of your tank, depending on what kind of enclosure you have. If these plants are attached, and that might be a middle ground you can find if you're picky on what plants you use, to kind of lighten the load and how much maintenance is required to maintain your tank. Planting in pots is a far easier option for adding plants to your enclosure. And that's because you can add or remove them whenever you want. With pots, you'll be able to remove the plants for maintenance or cleaning in the cage much easier. Additionally, you'll be able to switch in new plants in and out with this method instead of with the other method. You'd basically have to just tear everything out and work really hard to get it looking right again. Some plants, like herbs, that cannot last long in the bearded dragon enclosures, not only because of the climate, but also because the bearded will be munching on them. So if that's the case, pots makes it easier to pull out what has been eaten and replace it. And so removing the herbs and switching them in and out will give the plant some recovery time and provide your pet with variety. Planting in pots is also a great way to keep the humidity level stable. If the plant requires regular watering, it is difficult to keep the humidity levels where you want them to be if you're constantly adding water to their environment. So that's another big thing to consider. Anytime you add any plants at all, is maintaining humidity level, because Bearded dragons like really low humidity. Their natural habitat is the deserts of Australia. They need in between a 30 and 40% humidity. And, so that should play a large role in picking out what type of plants you use, and just, the level of maintenance or the time even that you have in your schedule to maintain them. All of these factors should play a role in what you choose to add or not add into your bearded dragon tank. Some of your plants might also need natural light, and putting them in pots will allow you to give them time out of the tank to perk up or get nutrients in the sun. So do your best to hide the pots with rocks or other decorative items. But if your look of the enclosure is important, you might want to look at the direct installation because it's just you can be more aesthetically pleasing with that. But I also recommend repotting the plants after purchasing them and before adding them to the enclosure. Plants will grow better and be healthier if they are given plenty of room for their root systems to grow. So here's a quick list that you can either pause the video, take a screenshot of, or for 5 plant options that I really like that are highly recommended. On this list, we have the edible herbs we mentioned, aloe vera, and some others. So, look these up, Google them, and see if you like any of them. But these 5 here have always been solid options in my experience. As with any item you introduce into your bearded dragon's environment, it's going to be important to watch your pet to make sure that they're okay with each new addition, because bearded dragons are real sensitive to changes in their environment. Some things could stress them out, cause them to start glass surfing, things like that. So just watch them and see how they respond. But I hope this list of plants helps you. You find it fitting within your enclosure or maybe what you're looking for. So just judge how committed you are to your the additional maintenance involved before going this route. And if you're uncertain, just go the potted route. And then if it turns out not to be for you, or turns out to take too much up of your time, then they're more easy to remove. If you want to learn more about bearded dragons to really be the best pet owner that you can be, check out the Bearded Dragon Handbook. This is a digital download that I've created. I've covered everything possible that you can think of about bearded dragons. I've received some really great reviews on it. There'll be a link in the description if that's something you're interested in. Thanks for watching our video. I hope you learned something new. While you're here, please comment below, like this video, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. Until the next one.
Have you subscribed yet? Subscribe yet?